Hey, everybody, welcome to the Crit House. I'm Jeff Larson, and we are continuing our My Five series in which we bring photographers and photo professionals in to talk about 5 images of their choosing from other photographers. That can be either their all-time favorite photographs or photographs for some other reason. And today we have a very esteemed photographer, Kristen Joy Emack. Kristen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for inviting me. This is awesome. It's really a nice opportunity to talk about my love of photographs that have nothing to do with me except for my interests. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
As I am, and I'm because I've seen your images and I like it. So Kristen is a 2022 Guggenheim Fellow. She is a MacDowell Fellow, a Mass Cultural Council Fellow, and a St. Botolph Fellow. That's a lot of fellowships, Kristen. She is also a Critical Mass Top 50 winner, a Michael Reichmann Project grant recipient, a PDN Emerging 30 nominee. She's a series winner on Lensculture, so many awards, and she is represented by Gallery Caiaphas here in the Boston area. Kristen, as we start off, tell me a little bit about what you are as a photographer, so that our viewers know who you are, because I know I just described a lot of stuff about you, but they might not necessarily know how you think of yourself as a photographer.
It's such a good question. I just think of myself as somebody who communicates with my camera and communicates things that are in my heart, and the things I can't say in words, I find a way to say through the camera. So and I know we were chatting a little bit before the recording started about my background as a primarily self-taught photographer. I took a few classes at UMass Boston, which is for anybody who's not in the state of Massachusetts, is a state university. So there wasn't a photography program that I went through. And I even with all of the fellowships and the accolades, that really remains something that really grounds me as a photographer, and like my whole path and how I got to where I'm getting. It's a source of pride at this point. Yeah.
Well, I think there must be, and I don't know what it is because I'm not an educated photographer either, but must be a different way of seeing the world or understanding art, if you are coming to it from your own perspective as opposed to going through the academy and learning it in a certain way. Maybe there's not. I don't know. I don't know enough about these things. But I should mention also that the big news in your world is that you have recently published your book, Cousins,
Yes,
which is getting great acclaim as well.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's just been a wonderful process. I know so many people talk about publishing books, and it's like a real source of stress and anxiety. And somehow or another, I've gotten through most of it without any of that. And I'm not really sure why. So maybe a year from now, I'll collect my thoughts. But I mean, one thing is that I have my publishers are lovely and really, really easy to work with, and very intuitive, and really care about like the beauty of photography and the beauty of as books as an object.
Tell us a little bit about what you went through in making decisions about the photographs that we are going to be talking about here, just real quickly. How did you decide on these 5 images?
Well, first of all, I definitely have more than 5 images that I love. And I was just really trying to think about what I wanted to, first of all, it's totally fun. It was just like a fun to be asked to think about photographs that matter to me, and fun to be able to talk about photographs that aren't mine, and just like elevate some work that I think is really exceptional, and some work that has like shaped me. And I have one story, one image I chose specifically because I have a personal story that like winds in with the photograph years later, and I just love that interplay of a flat image and what that flat image meant to me, and then how it sort of became folded in a very layered way into my life later on.
Right. Well, let's talk about them.
Okay, let's go. Well, this photographer is Nydia Bloss. I just have loved her work since the minute I saw it. And the first series that I learned about her through was The Girls Who Spun Gold. And this image is from there. So I don't actually know if her images even have names, but that's the name of the series. And I really love all of her work. So it's not like I love one thing more than the other, but in this particular series, she just has all of these layers and textures, and they're so sensual and beautiful. And I chose this one for some of the compositional qualities, like the actual textural layering of the pattern on the couch to like the crepe paper texture of the girls' dresses, the different colors, and then their bare feet against this deep patterned rug, and then of course like I don't know if we would call it a silkiness, but the shininess of this beautiful gold that's wrapped around the girls' faces.
Yeah. And you get their faces through the texture of that as well.
I think that is like one of the loveliest details, especially with this young woman in the yellow. It's like you just see this this pressed part of her face against the gold, and it's also like her expression is calm and centered. So it adds to the groundedness of the image for me.
Thanks for sharing this. So one of the interesting things about your images is that, and that I really enjoy, is I am discovering photographers and work that I was not familiar with before. Here's your number 2. Tell us about this.
Okay, so this is Rashad Taylor, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that know Rashad's work. And this is from a series called Little Black Boy. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. He has 2 series, and I'm not sure which one it is actually from. And Rashad is a friend too, so I will make sure to ask him which series it's from. But it's either from My America or Little Black Boy. But I'm going to assume it's Little Black Boy because he's doing this long-term series of his son over time. And the reason there's many of his images that I really love and that are quite iconic. For me, this image sticks with me because there's like the heaviness of this young innocent child, his son, obviously, holding the flag, something that little kids do all of the time. Children love flags. It's very innocent. It's not always attached to anything political, etc. But in this instance, with Rashad's literally his reflection there in the image with his son, as in the same way that his son is a reflection of him and he is a reflection of his son. It's just got a heaviness to it, and that heaviness is directly related to how Black boys, Black men are treated in America. So one of the things about it that stays with me is the energy in Rashad's stance.
Yes.
Right. He's there. There's something protective about it.
That's exactly the word I was thinking about.
Yeah. He's still, he's contemplative, he's reflective. Like I can see all of those things. Like he's self-reflective as he's gazing at his own child, but there's something where he's like just about ready to go. And it's like, as though he'll be kicked into action once he sees what his son's relationship with this flag is going to be, or rather what America's relationship with his son is going to be. So it's like, it's extremely, it's both grounded and reflective, and also like full of this energy of protectiveness that he's ready to protect his child at all costs.
There's something very fatherly in his stance.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Sally Mann. I mean, there's so many Sally Mann images, and I know like so many of us always want to talk about Sally Mann. The work that I love of hers the most, and it's a little bit ironic since my work on my long-term series Cousins, which just became the book, is work on family, and so a lot of times people will make a connection just because Sally Mann's most famous work was with her children. But the book and her work, body of work that is the most memorable to me is the At 12, which she did before Immediate Family and Still Time. And she went around her community and photographed girls at that pivotal 12-year-old age. So there's lots of images in that book that have stayed with me. It's my most beloved photography book. But I decided to choose this image just because, again, because of the layering and because of the like strength and the femininity and the womanness of this photo. And there's all of these little details. Like I'm assuming first of all, there's just the texture of the blankets, the quilting. There's the tree in the background. The trees in the background. There's this sort of tree that's looks like it's been hurt by a vine or shaped by something else.
Yeah.
Because it's got these curves in it, and this is not like a far fetch for me to imagine the life of a girl and how it's shaped by shaped by the patriarchy. I mean, that's our new way of talking about it, but shaped by outside forces, but still standing, like, so the tree's still standing, she's still standing. And then this lovely way that the tights are wrapped around the tree. Like, I'm just always curious, did someone did Sally see that and wrap the tight? Was there a wind? Did it just do it incidentally? And then that she's like stretching up this pantyhose thing, like one of the items that's like the most uncomfortable and for girls to wear.
Yeah.
And also what I would assume would be period stains on the comforter. Maybe they're not, they could be something else, but that's where my mind goes to, that she's 12. She's probably at the age where she's starting to menstruate, and like at that pivotal transitional time, or at least I don't think it's always a transitional time. And I've spoken about this with my cousin's work, but I do think we, as a culture, we think of the 12 as this transitional time where children shift from sort of an innocence of childhood to a more the burdens of adulthood and womanhood.
So there was a lot in there that, as a dude, as a man, that I would not have seen, that you just showed me. That was interesting. So this next image that we're going to look at, I want to preface by saying that we're going to have to block some of it out because of YouTube requirements and what you can and can't show. So we're going to link to where you can find the image in the show notes so that you can see it for yourself. But we decided to put the image up because we think it is a one that is worth talking about. So Kristen, tell us a little bit about this image and how it came to be for you.
Well, this image is by Jett Lara, and Jett Lara is a younger photographer in LA, and he has this like amazing ability to connect with people. And I was saying something to you at the beginning of like, one of the things I love about all of his images is that there's always this grace and softness within the grit of them. And that a lot of that comes from, I'm going to make a safe assumption that just really comes from his spirit and his heart. But I chose this one because I thought it's important to think about imagery that stays with you, even if it makes you uncomfortable. So for this image, for me, there's lots of things that are amazing about it. Compositionally, it's wildly composed. There's the frame, Jett's frame, there's the frame of the doorway, the frame of the mirror in the back, the frame of the doorway in the mirror, and and then the blackness around her. Like, that's just wild. And then I'm just always struck by thinking, like, how did he get here? And all of the layers of her as well. So for instance, she's a very complicated soul to wrap my head around. Like, I'm trying to figure her out. She looks like she has some sort of like a Catholic medallion, I forget. And then she's got this like very ornate costume jewelry. She appears to be somebody who probably was very poised at one time. And also, as a woman, she's in a position that when she was younger could have been like an arousing position or like attractive or something. And yet here, I think one of the reasons it frightens me as a woman is because here she is, I don't know what her age is, but where she is no longer going to be looked at as attractive through our cultural society's eyes.
Well, it's certainly memorable. We apologize for not being able to show you the image as it is in actuality, but we encourage you to go to the link that we'll provide in the show notes to take a look at it for yourself, because it is an amazing image. This is your fifth, and I believe you have a story to say about this, Kristen Joy Emack.
I do have a story. So I can't even remember the name of the woman who took this photograph. And that is also interesting to me, that this photograph has lived with me for such a long time, but I can't even recall her name. I know I gave it to you, but
yeah,
I have to look it up I saw this image when I was about, I think it was my 19th birthday, in this book. And
Family of Children. Oh,
yeah,
I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah, it's from the Family of Man series. I think they did this, and then the Family of Women. And my best friend sent it to me. Anyway, there's many beautiful images in here. There's three that always stuck with me, and this was one of them. And of course, I think it just simply stuck with me because of the contrast of this young innocent boy with this beautiful face, with these skinned carcasses behind him, the fact that he's smiling for the camera, and the way that with the innocence that a child would smile.
Yep.
Also that he's a young child with an apron on, which means he's working here, which is an unusual image for us to see. So, and it's just, it's just elegantly composed, with the tiles, the carcasses, the boxes, the plastic. So, but I just think there's a couple of instances in my life where photographs and my own life have like fallen into each other. And this is one of them. So many years after I was given this this book with this portrait in it, I lived in the North End of Boston for about a decade. This was before it got super gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I made friends with a girl in a family, an Italian family. And this family became very important to me. They owned a butcher shop on Salem Street, if anybody who's from the Boston area. And it was many years after I had been friends with this family where I realized that that the brother in the family is this boy.
No.
And
wow.
When I met him, he was actually at 17. I met him maybe when he was like 19 or 20, but when he was 17, due to gun violence, he became paralyzed for life, and has been in a wheelchair ever since. And I don't remember the exact moment where I realized that like I had now become friends with him, with his sister, with his family. In fact, when I was pregnant with my son, it was an extremely hot summer, and I lived on a 4-floor walk-up without any air conditioning, and pregnant. And I used to just always happen to pop by Benny's house at around dinner time. And of course, they were a big, loving Italian family. So I'd always get invited in and always have all these courses and had air conditioning. And so so this family like really became a very integral part of my life for a long time. And I just think it's so interesting. But I had no idea, because the image in the book has the author's name. The photographer's name, and just says USA. So when I realized it was just making the connection between his gaze and who I was seeing in relationship. So
that's an amazing story. Kristen Joy Emack, thank you so much for joining us here on the Crit House and talking about your 5 images here on the My 5 series. Check out her book, Cousins. We'll link to it in the show notes here. And thank you all for watching the Crit House.